Today's video is all about beginnings, and today I'm going to tell you the best ways to start your screenplay to make a smooth and not so aggravating journey through your process, starting right now. Hey, I'm Reginae. Welcome back to my channel. Well, if you're new here, welcome. If you've been here a while, good to see you again. I hope that today finds you well and we jump right into our video of beginnings. Sweet, sweet, humble beginnings. So we all know that stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But since we're talking about the beginning, we are going to stay just right there with it. And we'll just kind of break that down to the beginning, the middle, and the end of the beginning. When I say the beginning, I'm speaking roughly about the first 10 pages of your screenplay. So some people like to jump to the end of their story, like the very, very end of their story, and work all the way back so that we catch up. And, they do like the flashbacks and the montages and all that fun stuff. It works if it's something that you've like really, really heavily thought out, plotted out, outlined it to hell. There is... what day, like when the sun is rising, which direction the wind is going to blow. It is exact. It is very precise. I would not recommend that you start all the way from the end and work your way back until you absolutely have a very, very clear idea. Super clear idea, A, B, C, D, like A to Z. You know it all the way out to write that story. That is not one that I would say that you just kind of guess your way through, or you just kind of like word vomit it out and let the wind guide you on your path. That advice, don't take that. Know what you're doing, know what you're writing, and that way it all makes sense when you're going, backwards to forwards. Good example is that, when you're watching those like comedy movies, or just sometimes, I don't really see it much in dramas, but when they have them be like record scratch. Well, back it up. When you see somebody like getting punched and it's like, and like in slow motion, and it kind of like freeze frames, and it freeze frames, and then there's the record scratch, and they're like, you probably wonder how I got here. Let me tell you. And it goes all the way back in like a sweet, sunshiny morning, the birds are singing, it's a happy, cheery song. That's what that is. I don't have a good example of it off the top of my head, but if I find one, I'll link it down below. So I just want to say this is my opinion. You don't have to listen to me. I'm nobody. I'm just here to help, but I'm just saying. The goal here is to always make sure that you are writing with as less aggravation and hair pulling out of your head as possible. But again, just my opinion. Now in the middle approach, you meet your characters right literally dead ass in the middle of whatever they're doing in life. Fleabag was a great example of this, because we met Fleabag really literally in the middle of her having sex, a very intimate moment. And her way of letting us in through something so intimate was to break the fourth wall and literally turn her head and be like, hey, I'm thinking about this, 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 and this. And we're like, oh, we're allowed to be here. And so from there, we're able to literally kind of hitch a ride on her shoulder and just see the world as she sees it. More about her friends, her family, relationships, what she thinks, what's important to her, without really having to be told. Nobody's actually saying, oh, this is Fleabag, and she does this, this, and this, and she has that, and whatever, and she's going through this, that. It's a fun, not really, well, not fun is not the right word, but it can be a very clean way of letting your character tell you who they are without us having to be told who they are. Does that make sense? Like, it's not explicitly written that we are supposed to know everything about her, but she just lives her life. And as she goes through her life, we're able to just go with her. And through that process, we're just exposed to everything. And it's up to us to determine, if she's, deflecting because she's scared. Is her family kind of hard on her for no reason? We're able to make our own conclusions just by watching and just by going along for the ride. So in the beginning method, you are starting your screenplay literally at the beginning for your character. And at the beginning, that's usually a new journey that they're going on. Most commonly, most people start their main characters off with a new job that they are going to be taking. Day or beginning of a new job, whatever first that you choose, is great because you get so much conflict, because you have a person that's in a brand new world that's completely foreign to them, with people who have established habits, things that they do, their routines, and they don't like those things being disturbed, especially by new people. People are very, very territorial. So that's just rife for conflict. And once they start to, do their job, they may come across something that they don't agree with. And so how do they handle that? Are they going to rebel against that? Will they fall in line? Is it worth it to them? You might have a main character who needs a job. Well, obviously, if you have a job, you need money. But let's just say that there's a reason why this person needs this job. It may seem like to us, the viewer, that you should just be able to walk away from, but this is something that you'll have to establish as the writer. Why can't this particular character leave that particular job? What's going to force them to stay? When you start creating that kind of conflict in a brand new world, that's what's going to make it interesting. And I like that method a lot because it does just that, but it also gives you an opportunity to meet everybody all at the same time. Nobody's got any real information in the past to lord over them, over your new characters. We're all going on the same journey forward. Alicia Florrick is a great example of a new character on a new journey on their very first day. She is the ex-wife, I believe. I think she was divorced Peter. She divorced Peter, who was the state's attorney or attorney general, something like that. And she was a stay-at-home mom, and she decided to start her career as a lawyer. Again, I don't remember offhand if she was practicing law and then stopped when she had the children or whatever. But anyway, after so many years, she was coming back to work at a law firm with Will and Diane. And that's great because it gave you so much. What the pilot did is that it gave you so much conflict, but it didn't feel overdone. It just felt like this is a woman who is trying to rebuild her life in a way that makes sense for her, but it also gives you a lot of personal conflict for her and in the work that she's going to be doing. For herself, she's trying to rebuild her life away from a man who's been publicly disgraced. As somebody who is more from a privileged lifestyle, she's going to be working with clients who are probably equally as privileged, maybe not so much, and they all do things that are morally questionable. And she seems, without really knowing her too much in that pilot, she seems to be somebody who has very strong opinions and very strong morals. So it will be very interesting to watch her evolve, in trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, what's also going to make her money, how is she also going to take care of her family and her children. It was just a lot of great things. And Scandal also did this, but they did it with Quinn Perkins and not Olivia Pope. And I thought this was a really great way to do it because you get to meet your main character without placing a lot of responsibility on your main character. I think, at least in my opinion, there comes a very high expectation of your main characters having to be inherently good people who are always just trying to do the right thing. But when you take the main focus off of them and let somebody else introduce them, they're a lot more flexible to be exactly who they are and how they would respond to things in their own natural way without having a responsibility of, good or bad or other people's expectations of them. We met Olivia Pope through Quinn, who was offered a job as one of the new associates for Pope and Associates. And it's through Quinn that we really get to know who Olivia Pope is, what it is that she does, what are the details of actually being a fixer. And she found out very quickly that this is some crazy, crazy mess that's going on. And does she really want to be a part of it? And is it worth it to want to be so close to Olivia Pope that you put your morals aside and just do your job? That's the kind of conflict that you always want to put front and center for your characters so that it's interesting and that there's something that the reader will want to get to page 11 and beyond. executive will see, oh, there's, a whole season that can be done here. I see a season and 10 more behind that. You always want to give people the expectation that this is going to lead to something more, the possibility of there will be something more. So always develop to grow, leave the little nuggets and the little breadcrumbs so that people are always interested in wanting to see more and read more of you. So I'm going to be 100% honest with you and completely level with you, and this might break your heart, but this is a stage of screenwriting where things get very annoying and you have to start making some very hard decisions. Now, this doesn't have to be as agonizing and just fretful. It doesn't. It just really doesn't. You have to just be able to kind of stand on the table and look at it from a different perspective. Treat it more as, it's not that it doesn't work, but it gives you an opportunity to try something else. You have to kind of trick your brain into believing that your aggravations and your setbacks or rooms is an opportunity to grow. You have room to pursue another avenue. Freedom, that's it. So all screenwriting is rewriting, and you're gonna write it and rewrite it and rewrite it again. You'll probably rewrite a script, especially the beginning of your script, maybe 50 to 100 times. Please don't feel hard on yourself. It's part of the process. I can't really sugarcoat and be like, oh, you'll probably knock it out in 3 tries. It won't always be like that, because if you're really, really engaged with the work, it shows you different possibilities, as you go along. You may choose to start from the end and work your way to the beginning, but as you start writing, you may feel something else that would be better suited, that you just have to pursue to see if it actually works. Trust that. Go with that. Don't limit yourself because you've already decided that this is how I want to do it and this is how it has to go. Don't do that. That's aggravation. We don't want to do that. Now, I know 10 pages doesn't sound like a whole lot. It's like, 10 pages, I got that. But trust me, 10 pages can get very long and very tedious very, very quickly. 10 pages can really very quickly expose if you're on the right track or not. If you feel like it flows well and you can just knock it all out, that means you're doing something great. If you're having trouble with it and it's not quite coming together, like you're sputtering along, that's a really good indication to go back to square one and start all over again. And again, it is not that you are failing. It is exploring all the possibilities of opportunities for your story. That's how you have to look at it, because if you look at it more as, I keep having all these drafts, the number of drafts in my save file keeps going up and I'm not happy with any of it, as opposed to, oh, I can try this or I can try that, or this works and this doesn't work. You start to be very, very hard on yourself. Screenwriting is hard enough as it is. Don't add more stress to it by thinking that you're doing something wrong. You are always going to be writing and rewriting. So get very, very comfortable with writing, rewriting, and perfecting as you go, as much as you go. Well, as much as you can as you go. Now, because I am such a good person and I really want what's best for you, I've consulted an expert who I feel was just great and very knowledgeable about the subject, and I felt could really help you in seeing how it would work in real life. Well, not real life, because this is real life, but to see how it actually works when you have to go through a couple of drafts to find something that you really, really like. And so that expert is me. Duh. So my first method of having a new girl start in on her first day, it worked, but not all the way. It was one of those ideas that worked better in my head than on the page, because I kind of just threw her in. Looking back at it, I threw her in and just didn't really give her a lot of space and opportunity to really establish the world, because her first day, she was running into a meeting with all of the lawyers who were working on the class action lawsuit and the support staff to figure out what was going on next. Those are the kind of things that you kind of have to gradually build your way into, I think, because when you are meeting people in their jobs, there are particular ways in which they're doing and why they fight for something. Same thing with the people that they work with. There's a particular way in which they like to handle and settle things. And so if you don't know them, you automatically put a very harsh judgment on them that could be hard to walk back. And I didn't want that for them so quickly. It also put a lot of the attention on them and not her. I wanted her to kind of also have a say and kind of get more actively involved in the story. But I found by page 6, maybe 8, that it was all about them, not quite her. Like she was just there, just sucking up all the air. And I just thought that was just creepy and kind of a waste of time. So tossed it. So for the next draft, I decided to cut out the new girl and just follow the 4 lawyers that I wanted to focus on, kind of like the Grey's Anatomy. You just kind of met everybody at one time. And I liked it. I did. And how I started this one was they were meeting in I want to say a parking lot, maybe a parking lot or a dark alley. It was somewhere that it wasn't in the office, and it was somewhere that automatically let you know that it was very secret, very, very private. And they were expressing amongst themselves their concerns about what's going on. Is she like really dead? Is she hiding? You know, this lady was a trickster. And the dialogue here that I used was to let you know that this managing partner was somebody of very important stature, somebody who was very knowledgeable at what she did, but she also had a lot of secrets. And them not knowing what she knows and what she told before she died leaves them very, very vulnerable. So they were also trying to figure out, in addition to that, how are they going to be able to manage their cases? What are they going to do about the class action lawsuit? And so we got to follow them on their journeys with their support staff also to figure out the day-to-day, what's going on and how they actually interacted. What I liked about that draft is that it moved a lot quicker. I actually finished that draft and I was able to kind of get into how the law firm operates. And like kind of the cool things that they do to solve it, the week to week cases. But a note that I got back from people who had read it was that there were a lot of people involved, and it made it very hard to keep up with who was who on a page. And segue, that is something that you want to be mindful of when you have a lot of people in your script and on the pages, that you want to make sure that every voice is very defined. And you want to just lean into defining and sharpening who they are, why they are, and what they do, so that when you see them on a page, you don't lose who's speaking and why. It doesn't become a very muddled mess. So for about a week or so, I was just thinking about the notes that I was giving and how I could implement them and clear up some things and try to make this script, as fun and efficient and still interesting as possible. And I was kind of hitting a brick wall because I knew that I wanted everything in there, but I didn't know what to cut. It is a skill that you will learn as you go. And I think by this time I was on draft number 5 of the script, and I was just worried about the number of drafts going up instead of me actually focus on the story, because I was just young and dumb as hell. But anyway, so what I decided on was to cut the looming figure of the managing partner out completely, like kill her again in the script. And what it did is that it freed me up to actually talk about other things. So the way I went about it is I let a news report be the thing to explain who she is, the managing partner I'm speaking of, who she is, what she did, what she was doing, and how hurt that the community lost such a great pillar in their community. The next scene cuts to the 4 attorneys, and they are actually thrilled that this woman is gone. Like they're drinking and cracking jokes that this woman is gone, and they're just making jokes and having a really, really good time. It's like a complete jump from sadness and oh my gosh, she's gone, to woohoo! Why didn't this happen sooner? And so I thought it was a really great way to explore, or at least get a chance to explore, why they feel the way that they did. And from there, we actually can, I think I wrote something about them actually maybe having a part in what happened to her, or what could have led up to her death. I cannot talk today, jeez. What probably led to her death and their possible involvement in that. And so I like that one the most because it did a lot of heavy lifting in like 5 pages that had taken me maybe 15 to really explain. And it made for a much sharper story. It made for a much more efficient story because I'm not trying to explain who this lady is, why, everybody had their feelings, everybody came together, and every voice on the page was very distinct. Every personality was felt. Nobody felt like they were just getting lost in the sauce, so to speak. I'm really proud of that script. Now, if I looked at it today, I haven't looked at it in a very long time. Like, I got done when I was just like, but I'm pretty sure if I looked at it today, I could probably find a couple of things in it to retweak. But overall, I'm really happy about that one. That one was something like, once I started writing, it took me maybe 2.5 days to do because it just flowed. It really, really flowed. And for the record, I am in no way saying that you have to do a script in like 2.5, 3 days or whatever, but it is to illustrate that once you've got a really good idea and that you know where you want to go with your story and how it starts to kind of flow for you, and you just feel that ease, the wind in your hair, as you write, how quickly it all falls together for you. And I bring that up to mention to you, notice and take inventory of what it feels like to have the wind in your hair and when you're sputtering along in some like boulders and like concrete. Know what that feels like so that, when you're on a good roll, you stay going. If you kind of struggle with it, then know how to pull back a little bit and not be afraid to start over with something. A lot of people like to brag, that they can write a script in a week or 3 days or 4 days or whatever like that. Don't beat yourself up if you're not that person. People don't talk about the struggles that they go through. They talk about how fast they're able to do something. And I just said that I was able to write my script in maybe 2 or 3 days once I actually figured out what it is that I wanted to say and how I wanted to do it. But I also have maybe 20 other drafts of that same script that I was also actively working on before I could even get to write something that quickly. So I say all that to say, don't beat yourself up if you feel like you're not progressing as fast or moving as fast enough, or that your ideas are not working, or you can't seem to make an idea stick. Like, it happens like that. And I don't know why, it just does. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you're able to just kind of sit at your desk and just knock out all those pages, feel the wind in your hair, and, stand at your feet. You can feel it. Other days, it just doesn't work, and it just feels like nothing, is coming together. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's all I got. Take your time through it. Take your time. Breathe through it. Walk away when necessary, okay? If you feel like nothing is really coming together and you've been working at it, put it down. Always put it down and come back to it. A lot of people, I am one of them, also, we work on like 2 or 3 different scripts, so that if something's not working on one script, we go to something else. And as we're working on something else, something unsticks for the other script. So we kind of work both, So I recommend, if you're wanting to do that, have at least another script that you're actively working on, so that, it's not that you're not writing, but you're also, just working on something else. So that way you don't feel like you're not doing anything. And just because nobody asked, but I'm pretty sure you care, here is my ranking of the preferred methods of how to start your story. If you want to see more great content provided by yours truly, please watch my next video. In the meantime, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.